The story of Singularity comes at an incredibly appropriate time in Marvel Comics history. But who is Singularity? Let's talk about her. Around the time of her debut in 2014 into 2015, time was running out in the Marvel Universe. That time was quickly running out. The multiverse was ending in unfathomable destruction. Events referred to as incursions, where two Earths from two different dimensions were colliding, were happening at an increased rate. A race of beings that lived outside of the time stream and outside of the multiverse, called the Beyonders, had created molecule men in each reality that would serve as an anchor point, and each time a molecule man died, he would take his universe with him, something the Beyonders wanted to bear witness to. But when the first molecule man died, the multiverse began to contract to fill the void left over, and that's how the incursions began. Eventually, the entire multiverse was consolidated down to one planet, a battle world ruled over by God Emperor Doom. This is the planet that itself was fractured and divided and warred over during a 2015 event called Secret Wars. This battle world that God Emperor Doom created would eventually fall, and the world would be rebuilt again into a new era of Marvel Comics history. If we think about general relativity and the Big Bang Theory of how the universe began, we find something at the core, the very beginning of that event, called either the initial singularity or the gravitational singularity. It was a point that was infinitely dense, and that one point was full of all the matter that would burst forth into the universe we live in today. Symbolizing this theory, something that lately has been theorized to not be accurate, mind you, Marvel's singularity served as a subtle harbinger of what would soon unfold for Marvel's universe. And with that, we head from space down to the surface of Battleworld into an isolated island domain in the southern region of Battleworld named Arcadia. It's a domain ruled over by She-Hulk, who served as this domain's baroness under God Emperor Doom and patrolled by the Thor Corps, who also patrolled all the other domains on Battleworld, all under the draconian rule of God Emperor Doom. In Greek mythology, Arcadia is akin to Eden or Paradise, a lush green utopia meant to be peaceful and simplistic in its pastoral nature. Unlike most other domains on Battleworld, Marvel's Arcadia domain represented this, evoking the imagery of Paradise Island, aka Themyscira. And with that nod to Themyscirians and Wonder Woman, we'll see the development of an all-female team known as A-Force, appointed defenders of the Arcadia realm. During one mission, America Chavez threw a shark out of Arcadia and over the giant shield wall that protected the civilized domains from those like where the Marvel zombies lived and roamed. This, though, was a violation of Battleworld law, and so America Chavez was sentenced to a prison in the wall. America's friend Nico Minoru, aka Sister Grimm, was inconsolable at this, and that night she went to Bishop Lighthouse on the coast to mourn and cry about her lost friend. And there on the cliffs, under the inky black night, periodically pierced by the pulsating light of the rotating lighthouse, above the calm ocean waters lapping against a rocky shore, Nico saw a blue light streak across the sky. She thought it was America and ran to the crash site to see her friend, but inside the massive crater, she didn't find America Chavez, she found a small girl, a mysterious being seemingly embodying an entire galaxy within herself. She was a sentient pocket universe. Though she knew not her name, this was Singularity. Nico took this little girl back to the house that she shared with Lady Loki and formerly also with America Chavez and showed her around the house, sort of like Elliot and E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Lady Loki wanted to take the new girl before She-Hulk and A-Force to avoid suffering the same fate as Chavez did. They brought her to Arcadia Plaza at A-Force headquarters and met with She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Medusa, and Dazzler, who loved her light show. And as they were figuring out what to do with this girl, a massive sentinel showed up to attack. The sentinel detected Dazzler's mutant signature and was attracted to it and turned to attack her with an obelisk from a bell tower, but Singularity portaled her and the group next to her to a nearby rooftop into safety. They took down the big sentinel robot and then talked about how Singularity causes rifts when she's distressed, that she might have been the source of another portal they found under the ocean when they were with the Submariners. Medusa and She-Hulk argued about what they should do with the new girl, while Nico stood and protected her new friend. Singularity gave She-Hulk her bow before She-Hulk flew through another portal to the Sentinel Wasteland territories. While they waited for She-Hulk to return back through the portal, Singularity took a piece of Medusa's hair as a bracelet. She-Hulk came back and said that someone tried to frame the newcomer for the portals, and that there must be a traitor in Arcadia. She was quickly followed by Lady Sif, Gamora, and Valkyrie versions of Thor, agents of the Thor Corps. Thor Corps attacked them, and in the fight Medusa was wounded, and She-Hulk was suddenly a fugitive. And with a traitor around, Arcadia was no longer the safe haven they tried to create. Aurora Monroe, Storm, came to She-Hulk saying that she'd figured out who the traitor is, and Nico said her friend was their friend and meant to repay their kindness. To display that, Singularity expanded her galactic body and spoke, uttering just one word: hide. The Thor Corps was running around the city hunting A-Force, but they couldn't find them because the A-Force members were all safe within Singularity. Dazzler asked how it was possible, and Nico said she'd learned from them. She came to them amorphous and saw them and took on the form of a female humanoid that she'd watched and learned, and eventually picked up the ability to speak. That traitor ended up being Lady Loki. Lady Loki wanted the throne of Arcadia and was using her Asgardian magic to help the Thor Corps, ultimately to win favor in the eyes of God Emperor Doom. Then a massive nebulous singularity appeared outside of Lady Loki's window, forming a face that said, in a childish voice, "Hello," said in a friendly way, just before the rest of the fugitive A-Force flew through Singularity's body into her room to fight Lady Loki and the rest of the Thors. Exposed, Lady Loki unleashed a blast of power that destroyed part of the shield wall, allowing a horde of Marvel villain zombies to walk through. Singularity gathered with She-Hulk, Dazzler, Sister Grimm, and Captain Marvel at the shore to meet the army of the Walking Dead, and they were quickly joined by the Thors and a bunch of other ladies like Angela, Tigra, Polaris, and a plethora of other female heroes. In the battle for Arcadia, Singularity ended up saving Nico from a shark and flew away with her to safety. In the sky above the battlefield on Battleworld, that's where Nico finally learned her new friend's name, Singularity. Singularity then flew down and used her immense power to gather up all the zombies, where she took them into the sky and exploded, destroying them all and protecting her friends as she said goodbye, but she wasn't gone. In the emptiness around Battleworld, the vastness of nothing, much like Arcadia itself, Singularity lay there, dormant and quiet and childlike, and in her heart, an island ready to birth a new universe. When Secret Wars ended and the multiverse reformed, something happened. As Cap aboard the Alpha Flight low-orbit space station monitored the solar system, a new portal opened up, a sort of white hole and blue shift mix, and out of it came a being, a childlike being full of innocence. And that being was Singularity, but not just her, a composite of polar opposites, a being that was matter and antimatter, which would soon split. She was a merely cosmic anomaly they detected 2 days prior, but now Carol Danvers flew out to meet the being now formed into that of a girl, a humanoid of light, and a being conscious of itself. It touched Carol and then Tempest Bell, who'd also flown off to intercept, and she turned from orange to blue before blipping away again. In 2016's second volume of A-Force, it was indeed Singularity who, when she was reborn into the new universe, said that rebirth is violence. That sometimes you don't want to, but she quickly remembered her friends from Arcadia, one of the very few characters to remember the events of Secret Wars. She knew this world was different, but that her friends were there, and that's why she manifested in her Carol Danvers, because she remembered and recognized her. Singularity then reformed on the Alpha Flight space station, and with all the excitement and innocence of her youth, exclaimed, "Friend, Singularity is here," as she ran up and hugged Captain Marvel. Relieved that her friend was safe in this strange new world she didn't quite understand yet. Unfortunately, Carol Danvers didn't remember her, and Singularity was sad about this, so she made another new friend in Dr. Tempest Bell, the space station's lead astrobiologist. With Singularity's birth and the Earth 616 reality, another being was created, detected as the gravity well in the station, and that being, Singularity's polar opposite, was called antimatter. Singularity could sense antimatter's presence and was suddenly fearful and fled. Singularity boarded an escape pod that she somehow knew how to fly, and jettisoned and re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, crashing into New Adelan on the New York-New Jersey border. A couple there saw her emerge from the downed space pod and wanted to keep her, alluding to the story of Clark Kent from the Distinguished Competition, but that comedic bit was cut short as antimatter followed her and attacked. Singularity then portaled to Jen Walters' She-Hulk as antimatter pressed his attack, chasing her and destroying the facade of the building that Jen Walters' law firm was in. They attacked the creature, causing Medusa and a platoon of her Adelan troops to respond. And then Singularity went to Medusa to hug her, remembering her also as a friend, but Medusa slapped some metal bracelets on her wrist. She obviously didn't remember Singularity in return. As She-Hulk and Medusa argued about whether or not to turn Singularity over to antimatter to stop the attacks and the injuries and damage to others, the orange being grabbed one of Medusa's soldiers to inspect him, killing him, then saying that Singularity was causing him pain and to turn the blue girl over, for they were linked mentally and physically. They were beings that were opposite sides of the same coin. Medusa hit antimatter with a teleportation disc, which transported antimatter to space near the moon, while She-Hulk, Medusa, and Singularity tried to figure out what to do next. Singularity said that she would take them all to another of the friends that she remembered, Nico Minoru. So Singularity opened a portal to Tokyo, Japan for them to meet up with Nico. Singularity had just brought A-Force back together again, though she was the only one who realized it. And again, antimatter attacked, and now the foursome paired up to fight. Nico was able to use her magic to disperse antimatter. That gave Singularity some time to tell them who she was and some of the story about why she came to them. And Carol, still on the space station, reached out to them, and they plotted to use Singularity as bait to lure antimatter into a trap. They all headed to Miami, Florida to pick up Dazzler. They would need her light transmutation powers for the trap to work. Antimatter showed up again, and so Dazzler blasted Antimatter's face with her light powers. Singularity then talked with Nico, asking her to use her powers to remove the quote-unquote LoJack from her so that Antimatter couldn't track her anymore. Singularity then flew up and transformed her body into a bubble surrounding her friends, then said bye to her opposite, and then they all blipped away like a popping bubble. Carol called Dr. Bell from inside Singularity, but Tempest said the call was coming from inside the station. That's when Singularity appeared on the station and hugged Tempest. The A-Force team, still within her, released her friends onto the deck of the space station's bridge. As they talked about how to dismantle antimatter, they realized that destroying it would likely destroy Singularity as well. Antimatter then approached the station, and so A-Force flew out to intercept, this time without Singularity, hoping it would afford them some time to actually reason with this being. But it did not work, and both She-Hulk and Dazzler were wounded in the confrontation. Singularity was sad that her presence was hurting her friends, so as Dazzler lay unconscious in medical, she said goodbye and went to the blue area of the moon to confront Antimatter herself. A-Force flew to the moon with a bomb they'd built and attacked Antimatter and detonated it, destroying the being and saving Singularity at the same time. The bomb evaporated antimatter and severed Singularity and antimatter's quantum entanglements, meaning that when the bomb blew up, that damage and hurt would no longer also affect Singularity. At the end of that event, Singularity dubbed them A-Force once more and told She-Hulk that when antimatter went away, tears in the fabric of space and time ripped and more things got through the tears. More, it appeared, that antimatter didn't die, but merely dispersed. A-Force followed one of the rift-crossing creatures to Astoria, Oregon, and came across a Thor version of Dazzler battling an immense dragon over the pier of the shores on the coastal town. The Dazzler Thor came to them and said that they were under arrest by the order of Lord Doom. Clearly, she was confused about where she was. And then, once more onto the breach as Nico and Singularity, whom they'd now taken to calling Blue, started flying civilians to safety. The dragon they had encountered, a reality-warping dragon calling itself Countess, suddenly disappeared. A-Force then went to a bar for drinks while Blue slept at the table. Teleporting, she said, made her tired. The Countess then appeared to Nico in her human form and manipulated her and mind-controlled her, pairing up over a pile of sleeping friends, Blue included. Countess controlled the whole town and put A-Force in a jail cell. She then made Jen Walters turn to She-Hulk just as Blue turned up again to see her friend Jen hulked out. Later, Dazzler distracted Countess, allowing Medusa to wrap Nico up in her hair so Blue could teleport them across the river and outside of Countess's mind control influence. They came up with a plan to defeat Countess, but then that Dazzler Thor disappeared at the same time, right from Allison's arms. At the end, Singularity said, A-Force, assemble. During the Second Civil War, Singularity was one of the heroes to rally against the Celestial Destructor. Things quickly started falling apart for the team though as Medusa brought forth the inhuman Ulysses, and Carol was on the front lines while She-Hulk lay in the medical bay aboard S.H.I.E.L.'s Triskelion after the brutal fight with Thanos at Project Pegasus. Nico teleported away after Ulysses predicted she would kill someone, and Dazzler quit the team, wanting to go help Nico. Singularity was confused by Carol and gave her the okay to go away with Dazzler. They all showed up at the same time where Nico was in Colorado. And when they all started arguing, another lady in the house got fed up, and that's when Elsa Bloodstone pulled out her shotgun and told them to stop. Singularity was mad and teleported them to a spot above the town and made them see the fires and destruction that were happening there. Look what is happening here. Look what is happening to you, she said. She said act like a team or she'd put them all in her interior space until they learned how to get along. Carol, as the de facto team leader, put Medusa and Dazzler on a team with Singularity. Carol said that if the two ladies didn't get along, that Blue had permission to teleport them to Siberia and leave them there. They were to help civilians against a bug invasion, but just as they grouped up, one of the bugs entered their house. They then fought back against the Alice bug invasion, while Blue said she had to go quickly. Just as they were about to be overrun by bugs, Blue teleported them out of the house and right to where the rest of the team was. After they won that battle, Blue and A-Force went back to She-Hulk's bedside to tend to their friend. Singularity then showed up in Miss Marvel's book in 2018. Something was messing with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel's powers, and she fell through a portal to a space outside of time, and there she met Singularity, who was just floating around, and she was able to help Kamala find her way. It was a plane outside of eternity, neither here nor there, home to the Queen of Nevers, a cosmic abstract female who was once a love interest to eternity itself. Singularity teleported Kamala to one random place in the time stream before being more specific and sending her back to Jersey. In a fight with Shocker, Kamala wound up in that plane again, and once more, Blue helped out her friend. Shocker tried to keep them there as the rift began to close, so Singularity hit Shocker and he floated back through space while Bruno pulled Kamala back to Earth. In 2020, Singularity helped Captain Marvel out while she was battling with Vox Supreme, who'd bonded with her and given her a fancy new suit. Vox wanted her to kill the Avengers, so she had Singularity hide them within herself while Carol killed S.H.I.E.L.D. LMDs to fool Vox. Singularity then teleported the Avengers around to recover the beings that Vox was creating and planting around the globe. They took Vox down and then brought him to the raft for imprisonment. And once he was in custody, Blue flew off to her place outside of eternity to rest. So where will she show up next? We'll have to wait and see, which means that's a wrap on this, my friends. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.